19 states in Nigeria, led by the Kogi State, had in a suit challenged the law that established the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in 2003. Benue State withdrew from the suit last week after Governor Hyacinth Alia suspended the state's Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Fidelis Mining for failing to inform him before joining the suit. The Jigawa State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Bello Fanini, also confirmed the state's withdrawal at a media briefing, stating that the decision was in the best interest of the state.
The states, now excluding Benue and Jigawa, argue that it was a UN Convention Against Corruption that was reduced into the EFCC's Establishment Act, and that in enacting this law in 2004, the provision of Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution was amended, and as amended rather, was not followed. According to them, the provision of the Constitution necessitated a majority of the state's House of Assembly agreeing to bring in the convention in before passing the EFCC Act and others, which was allegedly never done. Now, joining us to discuss this is the Secretary General, Follow the Money International, Mukhtar Modibo. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
I'm sure you must have followed, this story since it started. Do they have a point? Is there a strong claim that these states are making?
To be honest, I think it's just a joke. We're just making a joke out of a serious issue. So if you look at history, Nigeria has had the issue of corruption as a major challenge. I mean, from the military era to what we are seeing today. I mean, if you look at in 1979, when the issue of corruption became so worsened, that's when the country created the Code of Conduct as one of the first anti-corruption agency. Fast forward to 1999, when we returned into democracy, and 2000, the creation of ICPC, as well as in 2004, the creation of EFCC. To be honest, I think nobody will fight corruption if there is not that point of independency of the corruption agency. So what the states are doing, obviously, is because who is leading the conversation is the government of Kogi State. And lately, you've seen what has been happening with Yaya Bello, who is the former governor of Kogi State, and the person that has maybe the state is in support of their son to say he's being prosecuted. He's been prosecuted not in order, right? It has been a history of EFCC. One of the major challenges of EFCC has always been that political interference, that issue of lack of funding and resources, and issues of lack of independency and selective cases of a point. If you look at the cases that EFCC have been doing, one can sit and say, the issue is always the person that is not in power is the one that, or the party that is not in power and you belong to that political party, that's the party that will always be questioned. Yes, it's a good thing that we have EFCC, but it's ravaged with some level of challenges. And I think if those challenges are being addressed, we get to see a corrupt-free nation that we all clamor for. Because it's not just EFCC, we've got SCUMOL, we've got ICPC, we've got the UNCAC, right? And then we've got NFIU. So what are they saying about all those anti-corruption agencies? So I think it's just a joke for me, if you ask me.
Okay, let's talk about the EFCC. They've come under a lot of fire for how they've handled a number of issues. You've just made reference to the Yahaya Bello case, which Nigerians have not seen a logical conclusion, and a number of people don't expect that a logical conclusion will be seen to that. There's Darius Ishaku, there's a number of people, really, and ex-governors who have probably been, sued, but it just seems like they're running around in circles. What's your assessment of the EFCC's will to fight corruption and how they've executed that so far, especially with high-profile cases?
So, first of all, I think one of the first things EFCC need to address is the issue of selective cases. And another thing is EFCC need to build more trust among the citizens, among the people. Because if you look at what is going on, a lot of time people think EFCC is just after either Yahoo boys that are doing wrong things and then leaving the politicians that have had a lot of cases. I'll give you an example with the Danjuma Magoje's case. Immediately he switched party, the case died down like that. You know, till today the case is not nowhere to be found. The former governor of Adamawa State, that's Murtala Nyako, the present governor of Adamawa State, that's Amadou Umaru Fintiri. You know, you could say that there are quite a number of cases of EFCC. I think one of the most, the only case that we can, not the only cases, but something I can remember that someone has served that jail time and what have you, is around Farouk Lawal, the former member from Kano that was released, I think, last week or so. So the reality is the selective case scenario, the issue of political interference has been the major issues of the anti-corruption fight. But the problem is, I think a lot of things need to be done. That collaborative part of between civil society organizations, the citizen, and then the anti-corrupt agencies should really be centralized. That strengthening system of optimal institutional performance of EFCC need to also be looked into. Then issues of resources and funding. Then for me, the major thing is EFCC should not wait for someone to do the case. Can we employ more on the preventive measures of corruption rather than, you know, looking at if something has happened? Nigerians have been cheated. Like you rightly mentioned of the case of Yaya Bello. How can one person pay school fees of someone that has not even reached a level of being in school, right, to the end of him leaving that school with taxpayers' money? Until today, the EFCC cannot adequately say we have arrested this guy. He's in detention and we're doing something. And when he went to answer the EFCC, he went with the sitting governor that have immunity and using convoy to pass into the whole thing. So I think we all need to understand that political interference has been hindering that fight against corruption. And another thing is, for me, if you ask me, a lot of times I talked about that multiplicity of agencies, anti-corruption agencies. You've got the Code of Conduct, you've got the NFI, you've got the EFCC, the ICPC, the UNCAC, right, the SCUMAL and what have you. Can you bring them together in one place and give them all the powers they need and then, you know, cut down all political interference, selective cases and everything, and give them all the independence they need and all the powers they need to do what they are meant to do. I mean, there is a recommendation for states to create their own form of anti-corruption agencies. Most of the states have created their own, like the former governor of Kano, the now present chairman of EFCC, created, APC, created the Kano one. And the same agency that he created are after him to come and answer some level of questions. And he didn't respond to that, and he is not there. So what precedent are you trying to give? You created something because we all think you believe in anti-corruption, you believe in the fight against corruption, and the same agency you created, maybe 1 year or 2 years down the line, you're not, you know, respecting that agency to go and answer some level of questions. So there is really a conversation about the independency and then the lack of interference politically into the entire issue. But the biggest thing we need is that independency of the anti-corruption agency and the issue of really political will in addressing issues of corruption in Nigeria.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone agrees with you with the multiplicity of, you know, these corruption fighting agencies. There's so many of them. You know, I think the police itself, you know, should have its own corruption fighting agency as well, but nobody hears about it. We're mostly reliant on the EFCC. It's become the most popular. The ICPC, barely. The Code of Conduct Bureau as well. But I also want to ask, how difficult really is the act of fighting corruption, the processes that they should go through to be able to properly investigate successive governors and successive politicians and, you know, House of members, National Assembly members, I beg your pardon. Nigeria has a long history of lifetime immunity for presidents, for example. There's barely no president or vice president ever has his name mentioned in anything corruption related. You know, they just seem to have this sainthood around them. So how difficult really is the job of investigating and fighting corruption that these multiple agencies have, and we seem to not be seeing any progress with it?
Ask me, to be honest, that thing is not that difficult, the way we take it to be. Why did I say it's not difficult? If the agencies are independent, right, and they can go ahead and do what they're instructed to do without any interference, I don't think there would be a problem. The only problem that is making it difficult now is because there is that selective issue of case. I can independently tell you that. And then there is lack of independency, and then there is that high level of political interference in the country. Now, I'll tell you what happened in Abuja within the week. A sitting House of Reps member from Abia State was said to be having an issue, right, with a bold driver, and it reached to a level of how did he put that statement? I will
beat you up and throw you in my generator house.
Yeah, and nothing will happen, you get. So it's just a normal thing that if you are in power, it's said to be you have that level of immunity, you have that level of composition that nobody will touch you. Now, I don't want to just bank on anti-corruption agencies or anti-corruption alone. Following traffic lights, in Abuja, where I am, following traffic lights is a problem for people in convoy, right? Talk more of, the Code of Conduct Biru head was caught in an issue, right, somewhere last year or last 2 years, and nothing happened particularly. He was caught in an issue, and then, there is not something serious that really happened. So the reality is we're still having to go on a scandal that is happening between the Bobrisky case and what have you. So the main issue now are two: the independency of the anti-corruption agencies, and then overall strengthening of our judicial system, that is judicial reform. Because the reality is, whatever EFCC can do, their own is to investigate and take it to court and tell the court this is what has happened. It's now left for the judicial system to decide what are the punishment of these particular people. A lot of people are going on the street, right, free, because they've got some level of money, they have made some level of some of their bonds and what have you. But the reality is, if you see someone maybe stole a bottle of water or Maggie, I once passed around my estate, and then I saw a lot of people, and then the conversation was this guy stole 2 jerrycans of petrol. And already, if you see how people gather, they are trying to do something that is not really good. And I had to tell them that, why won't you call the police? And they said, oh, we've been arresting this guy and sending him to police, and he always comes back. If you check Afrobarometer's data, you will see how people don't trust anything government. They don't trust police, nor the EFCC, nor the ICPC, or any anti-corruption or any security agency. So maybe the first thing the anti-corruption agencies will do are 2 things. We have to get that overall judicial reform. We have to get that independency of that anti-corruption agency. And then we have to get a scorecard of scoring these particular people. If you're not able to achieve this and this and this within this and this period of time, then you should give another person to continue from where you stop. Because, overall, if you are going to pick out the number of cases that have seen the limelight, or from EFCC to ICPC to NFIU to the police, you will see that the numbers of cases that have not gone anywhere, the margin is too high. So what I will say is, we can just keep talking about this. If there is no political priority from the central system, right, from the national government to make these people independent, give them all the resources they require, then we will keep talking about this on and on and on, and we will not see change. I will borrow the words of Deji. He said, you cannot be doing something the same and expect a different result. So you have to change strategy, or you have to change your methodology to be able to see something different. So we have to change our methodologies and strategies for us to be able to see something different.
All right. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning. We'll keep following up with the progress that the EFCC is making and how Nigerians are responding to that. But yes, these conversations will constantly be hard to hold them to account. Thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.